dāsa.
Okay, here we go. You can see the beautiful backdrop. We're outside today. Despite the fact that it's like what, 90 degrees?
Yeah, it's 90. I mean, I don't know. It's like a little cloud. Some clouds are coming in. I wonder if we're gonna get some rain. Kind of seems like it.
Yeah, a little windy. You know, it's kind of humid out, but a
It's
little
here.
wind doesn't help or doesn't hurt. I mean, so I guess we'll get started here. I'm
Yeah.
going to share the screen. We're on a really awesome um, section of the Bhagavatam right now. And so I'm going to switch it over to chapter 2, verse 19, is where we left off. We left off on 18. So can you see that now? No, it's
Uh,
loading.
yeah, it's still not visible. So there we go. There it is. Yep. Got
Okay,
it.
cool. All right, so what we'll do, I don't know if Al's working or whatever.
Yeah.
We're just going to get started here. And so what I'll do is what we usually do is read the Sanskrit and the synonyms and the translation. I'll read those three, and then we'll take turns reading the paragraphs. Okay? So text 19, this is a really famous verse too. This whole section here from text 19 to 21 or 2, very, very important verses. Tadarajas tamo bhavo kamalobadayasche chatai taranavidam stitvam sattve prasidati. Synonyms. Tada, at that time, Raja, in the mode of passion, tama, the mode of ignorance, bhava, the situation, kama, lust and desire, loba, hankering, adaya, others, cha, and ye, wherever they are, whatever they are, cheta, the mind, itai, by these, anavidam, without being affected, stitam, being fixed, sattve, in the mode of goodness, prasidati, thus becomes fully satisfied. Translation. As soon as irrevocable loving service is established in the heart, the effects of nature's modes of passion and ignorance, such as lust, desire, and hankering, disappear from the heart. Then the devotee is established in goodness, and he becomes completely happy. He or she. Okay, go ahead.
Report. A living being in his normal constitutional position is fully satisfied in spiritual bliss. The state of existence is called Brahmabhuta or Atmananda, or the state of self-satisfaction. This self-satisfaction is not like the satisfaction of the inactive fool. The inactive fool is in the state of foolish ignorance, whereas the self-satisfied Atmanandi is transcendental to the material state of existence. The stage of perfection is attained as soon as one is fixed in irrevocable devotional service. Devotional service is not inactivity, but the unalloyed activity of the soul.
Atma means self. There's a series of verses in the Bhagavatam called the Atmaram verses, which means that somebody who's completely satisfied in the self. Those are also, there's another verse in the Bhagavad Gita, which kind of like points that out too. When you reach the stage of transcendence, you're completely satisfied in the self and you're happy beyond any, you know. Okay, the soul's activity becomes adulterated in contact and as such, whoops. Okay, my speaker is not, okay. I thought my speaker wasn't working, but it is. The soul's activity becomes adulterated in contact with matter, and as such, the diseased activities are expressed in the form of lust, desire, hankering, inactivity, foolishness, and sleep. The effect of devotional service becomes manifest by complete elimination of these effects of passion and ignorance. The devotee is fixed at once in the mode of goodness, and he makes further progress to rise to the position of Vasudeva, or the state of unmixed sattva, or Shuddha sattva. That means pure. Pure sattva is goodness, but Shuddha sattva means pure goodness. Only in this Śikṣāṣtaka state can one always see Krishna face to face by dint of pure affection for the Lord. Go ahead.
The devotee is always in the mode of unalloyed goodness. Therefore, he harms no one. But the non-devotee, however educated he may be, is always harmful. A devotee is neither foolish nor passionate. The harmful, foolish, and passionate cannot be devotees of the Lord. However, they may advertise themselves as devotees by outward dress. A devotee is always qualified with all the good qualities of God. Quantitatively, such qualifications may be different, but qualitatively, both the Lord and his devotee are one and the same.
Okay. Text 20. Evam persona manaso bhagavad bhakti yogata bhagavat tattva vijnanam mukta sangasya jayate. Synonyms. Evam, thus, persona, enlivened, manasa, of the mind, bhagavat bhakti, devotional service of the Lord, yogata, by contact of bhagavat, rendering or regarding the personality of Godhead, tattva, knowledge, begat, scientific, mukta, liberated, sangasya, by the association, jayate, becomes effective. Translation. Thus established in the mode of unalloyed goodness, the man whose mind has been enlivened by contact with devotional service to the Lord gains positive scientific knowledge of the personality of Godhead in the stage of liberation from all material association. Go ahead.
In the Bhagavad Gita 7:3, it is said that out of many thousands of ordinary men, the fortunate man endeavors for perfection in life. Mostly men are conducted by the modes of passion and ignorance, and thus they are engaged always in lust, desire, hankerings, ignorance, and sleep. Out of the many such man-like animals, there is actually a man who knows the responsibility of human life and thus tries to make life perfect by following the prescribed duties. And out of many thousands of such persons who have thus attained success in human life, one may know scientifically about the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. In the same Bhagavad Gita, it is also said that the scientific knowledge of Sri Krishna is understood only by the process of devotional service, bhakti yoga.
Yeah, there's so many different kinds of people, but even if you're trying to reach, transcendental knowledge, only one, out of many thousands of millions of those people, only one knows Krishna in truth. The very same thing is confirmed herein in the above words. No ordinary man, even one who has attained success in human life, can know scientifically or perfectly the personality of Godhead. Perfection of human life is attained when one can understand that he is not the product of matter, but is in fact spirit. As soon as one understands that he has nothing to do with matter, he at once ceases his material hankerings and becomes enlivened as a spiritual being. This attainment of success is possible when one is above the modes of passion and ignorance. In other words, when one is actually a Brahmana by qualification. A Brahmana is the symbol of Sattva Gun, or the mode of goodness. And others who are not in the mode of goodness are either Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, Shudras, or less than Shudras. The Brahminical stage is the highest stage of human life because of its good qualities. So, one cannot be a devotee unless one at least qualifies as a Brahmana. The devotee is already a Brahmana by action, but that is not the end of it. As referred to above, such a Brahmana has to become a Vaishnava, in fact, to be actually in the transcendental stage. A pure Vaishnava is a liberated soul and is transcendental even to the position of a Brahmana. In the material stage, even a Brahmana is also conditioned soul because, although in the Brahminical stage, a conception of Brahman and transcendence is realized, scientific knowledge of the Supreme Lord is lacking. One has to surpass the Brahminical stage and reach the Vasudeva stage to understand the personality of Godhead Krishna. The science of the personality of Godhead is a subject matter for study by the postgraduate students in the spiritual line. Foolish men, or men with a poor fund of knowledge, do not understand the Supreme Lord, and they interpret Krishna according to their respective whims. The fact is, however, that one cannot understand the science of the personality of Godhead unless one is freed from the contamination of the material modes, even up to the stage of a Brahmana. When a qualified Brahmana factually becomes a Vaishnava in the enlivened state of liberation, he can know what is actually the personality of Godhead. I just wanted to say one thing. You know, before Prabhupada came to America and India, women were not allowed to take the Brahminical initiation. But Prabhupada changed that in America. He allowed women to take Brahminical initiation, second initiation. You know, in India, like the Bhagavatam says that if a woman follows their husband, who is a devotee, that is sufficient in itself in this age for complete realization. You know, if one is, you know, if the husband is a devotee and the wife serves the devotee husband, then that is sufficient in and of itself. But Prabhupada gave the Brahminical initiation to women. There's a special mantra that is given by the spiritual master that is called the Gayatri mantra that one chants 3 times a day, and it's praises to the you know, the guru and the Vaishnava, you know, sampradaya. I mean, especially Lord Chaitanya and Krishna. But that's a very powerful mantra. It starts with the word Om, and that is the sum and substance of all the Vedas is contained in that syllable Om, the Omkar. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, I am the syllable Om. So all of the entire Vedas are coming from that word. You know, like it says in the Bible, in the beginning, the word was God. You know, all of creation emanates from that Omkar. It's that is Krishna himself. So, but that's pretty extraordinary that Prabhupada, he had a lot of people that were like criticizing him for that, but Prabhupada was not, you know, Lord Chaitanya's movement is inclusive. He even, you know, Lord Chaitanya even brought in Mohammedans, and that was not even thought of, you know. He made Haridas Thakur the Acharya of the Holy Name. And Haridas Thakur was Mohammedan, and also the Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami, the 2 Goswamis of the 6, those were the most erudite scholars, and they were very learned, but they were associated with Mohammedan king. And so they were extradited, they were ostracized from the Brahminical culture. But despite that, Lord Chaitanya instructed them and made them, like, he made Rupa Goswami empowered to understand what Lord Chaitanya's message is, what his mission was. Every morning before the Bhagavatam class, we say this mantra: when will Sri Rupa Goswami, who is established within this material world the mission to fulfill the desire of Lord Chaitanya, give me shelter at his lotus feet? We pray to Lord. We're all known as, in the Vaishnava Sampradaya, we're known as Rupanugas. We're all followers of Rupa Goswami. And so he was not even in society. He was not even allowed in the temple, in Jagannath temple. In Haridas Thakur, he had to live outside the temple because he was actually born in Mohammedan family. But Lord Chaitanya didn't care. So it's just available to everybody. One day they'll start allowing Westerners. I mean, even to this day, 500 years later, even after Prabhupada, they still don't let Westerners into the Jagannath temple in India, you know, because, you know, even certain vegetables are considered molecha vegetables. It's really ridiculous. But anyway, let's continue on here. I think this is the last of this series of verses, which is really ecstatic. Text 21. Vidyate hridi grantis chindante chidyante sarva samsaya shyanti chasikarmani drishtva about manishre. Synonyms: vidyate, pierced; hridaya, heart; granti, knots; chidyante, cut to pieces; sarva, all, samsaya, misgivings, chiante, terminated, cha, and asya, his, karmani, chain of fruitive actions, drishti, is having seen, eva, certainly, atmani, unto the self, ishvare, dominating. Translation. Thus, the knot in the heart is pierced, and all the misgivings are cut to pieces. The chain of fruitive actions is terminated when one sees the self as master. Go ahead.
Attaining scientific knowledge of the personality of Godhead means seeing one's own self simultaneously. As far as identity of the living being as spirit self is concerned, there are a number of speculations and misgivings. The materialist does not believe in the existence of the spirit self, and empiric philosophers believe in the impersonal feature of the whole spirit without individuality of living beings. But the transcendentalists affirm that the soul and the super soul are two different identities, qualitatively one, but quantitatively different. There are many other theories, but all these different speculations are at once cleared off as soon as Sri Krishna is realized in truth by the process of bhakti yoga. Sri Krishna is like the sun, and the materialistic speculations about the absolute truth are like the darkest midnight. As soon as the Krishna sun is arisen within one's heart, the darkness of materialistic speculations about the absolute truth and the living beings is at once cleared off. In the presence of the sun, the darkness cannot stand, and the relative truths that were hidden within the dense darkness of ignorance become clearly manifested by the mercy of Krishna, who is residing in everyone's heart as a super soul.
Yeah, as was the masthead on the Back to Godhead magazine. Godhead is light, nescience is darkness. Where there is Godhead, there is no darkness. In Bhagavad Gita 10:11, the Lord says that in order to show special favor to his pure devotees, he personally eradicates the dense darkness of all misgivings by switching on the light of pure knowledge within the heart of a devotee. Therefore, because the personality of God is taking charge of illuminating the heart of his devotee, certainly a devotee engaged in his service in transcendental love cannot remain in darkness. He comes to know everything of the absolute and the relative truths. The devotee cannot remain in darkness because a devotee is enlightened by the personality of Godhead. His knowledge is certainly perfect. This is not the case for those who speculate on the absolute truth by dint of their own limited power of approach. Perfect knowledge is called parampara, or deductive knowledge, coming down from the authority to the submissive oral receiver who is bona fide by service and surrender. One cannot challenge the authority of the Supreme and also know him at the same time. He reserves a right of not being exposed to such a challenging spirit of an insignificant spark of the whole, a spark subjected to the control of the illusory energy. Devotees are submissive, and therefore the transcendental knowledge descends from the personality of Godhead from Brahma to Brahma, and from Brahma to his sons and disciples in succession. This process is helped by the super soul within such devotees. That is the perfect way of learning transcendental knowledge. Go ahead.
This enlightenment perfectly enables the devotee to distinguish spirit from matter, because the knot of spirit and matter is untied by the Lord. This knot is called ahankara, and it falsely obliges the living being to become identified with matter. As soon as this knot is loosened, therefore, all the clouds of doubt are once cleared off. One sees his master and fully engages himself in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, making a full termination of the chain of fruitive action. In material existence, a living being creates his own chain of fruitive work and enjoys the good and bad effects of those actions life after life. But as soon as he engages himself in the loving service of the Lord, he at once becomes free from the chain of karma. His actions no longer create any reaction.
Yeah, the knot in the heart, they're talking about the knot that's cut to pieces. The knots in the heart are these karmic reactions, this ahankara, this false ego, and also the knot in the heart especially is like the attraction between man and woman and family and society and, you know, the bodily relationships, which is kind of, Prabhupada has called it a skin disease. You know, it's like very, very superficial. It's not really, it doesn't have anything to do with Krishna. It's just basic on bodily relationships and satisfying one's own personal sense gratification. But Krishna consciousness is different. And when one is free from all these chains on these knots that are tying up our consciousness from all the garbage that's holding us down from really surrendering in submissive service to Krishna, then we can, from within, the super soul, Prabhupada says, talks about the super soul. It's helped by the super soul. And so Krishna is within everyone's heart as the super soul, and he gives instructions on the outside as the guru or devotees. And all this is confirmed by the super soul. And of course, we have the Shastra too. And then when we're actually submissive in serving and surrendering at that point, then we're free to act. We're totally free. We're free from all the bondage of our attachments and illusions and our false ego. And we can become happy, because all these things are not making us happy. All these we try to be happy, but it's like that Melanie song in the 70s. I'm so old. I'm dating myself here. Melanie had a song called let's see, psychotherapy. It's like, you may think you're having fun, but you're not having fun at all. As the id goes marching on, it's like the whole idea that we're enjoying this material world is a fruitless project. It's like chewing the chewed, that which has already been chewed. Like if you saw some chewing tobacco and if you picked it up and started chewing that's gross. But that's what it's like trying to enjoy this material world. It's not really, there's no juice in it anymore. It's not, it might have some temporary satisfaction, but it's not permanent. Whereas devotional service is completely different. It's an ever increasing ocean of ecstatic happiness. It's like in my name, the Śikṣāṣtaka prayers, it says, Anandam Buddhivardhanam, Pradipadam Panamatasradhanam, Savatmasna Paramparam Vijayate Krishna Sankirtanam. The holy name of Krishna cleanses the mirror of the heart and extinguishes a fire of misery in the forest of birth and death. As the evening lotus blooms in the moon's cooling rays, the heart begins to blossom in the nectar of the name, and at last the soul awakens to its real inner treasure, a life of love with Krishna. So, it's an ever-increasing ocean of ecstatic, loving service to Krishna. And that is the goal. But we can't do that as long as we're attached to our own, program of trying to bang our head against the wall and, with all our attachments, all these different kinds of, side projects that we're doing, all our plans for happiness. Prahlad Maharaj, the little boy that was the son of Hiranyakashipu, who Lord Nrsingadev killed. He said, if you want to be happy, just stop trying to be happy. That's like a really paradoxical statement. But the only reason we're unhappy is because we're looking for happiness in the wrong place. We're trying to eke some happiness out of this material manifestation, trying to lord it over to material resources, trying to enjoy our bodies and the extensions of our bodies, but they're not really, there's no real lasting happiness with that. And anything you enjoy in this material world, if you like eating ice cream, you can eat so much ice cream, but after a while you get sick of it, and then you get sick, period.
Yes.
But with Krishna consciousness, it's an ever increasing happiness that's like an ocean, and one drop of that can satisfy you to the extent that you don't ever want to taste anything else. You can just keep coming back for that and back, because Krishna doesn't let you go. Once you taste that ecstatic bliss, Krishna gives you a taste, but he won't let you go with that. It's like, just like if a company gives you a sample of something, and you like it, so he gives you a free sample. So Krishna will give you a taste, but then you have to work for it, and you have to pay for it. You have to give up your personal agenda and accept Krishna's agenda, accept Krishna's way of doing things. Krishna is always smarter than us. He knows what's best for us. There's not a word in this book or in the Bhagavad Gita that's not good for us. and it will free us from all our attachments and aversions, because we're just always hankering for something, and we're always lamenting that we don't have something. It's like a football being kicked back and forth on a football field. We're always hankering, lamenting. And so, the only real place of satisfaction is just simply surrender to Krishna. Krishna says, give up all varieties of religion, just surrender to me.
And
I'll
this
protect
is
you from
this
all
is in
sin-free
the
action.
this is okay, so this is the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, text 22. What chapter is this in the, like, what book
This
is
is the second chapter, Divinity and Divine Service. These are, see, the
chapter
first
2?
chapter was the sages asking the questions of to Sutta Goswami, and this is him giving the answers of all of their questions. They had 6 primary questions, and these are like answering them one after another. What's the prime goal for human society by which they can be happy? And he answered that, unmotivated, uninterrupted service to the Supreme Lord, without any speculation or without any fruitive activity, that completely lead to the happiness of the living entity. He explains every single point that they asked, and it's all in a nutshell in this chapter. That's why these last 6 verses are so important, because they answer all of the questions that the sages asked. And then the whole Bhagavatam is just leading up to all these different pastimes, and purifying our mind and hearts to the point where we can actually understand Krishna, who is you can't like jump ahead to the 10th canto. A lot of people do that because they think it's some kind of like they want to dive into the intimate pastimes of Krishna, but we're not even qualified for that. We have to go step by step. So therefore, it recommends that we go step by step and read chapter by chapter all the way up to the 10th canto, and then we can enter into Krishna's pastime. This is the best book in the world, because it prepares you to do that. And this is like the graduate study after the Bhagavad Gita. The Bhagavad Gita tells you, surrender to me. Just abandon all varieties of religion, surrender. And this book is like the graduate study. After you surrender, then what do you do?
Right.
There's 3 things. There's like understanding that we have in a relationship with Krishna, Sambandha, Abhideya, and Prayojana. And the Bhagavad Gita is a Sambandha stage. We surrender to Krishna, and then the next stage is Abhideya, which is the activities of Krishna consciousness. And what is the result of learning the activities? The end goal is Prayojana, love of God. And that is what is the postgraduate study of Lord Chaitanya's book, the Chaitanya Charitamrita. And that is the postgraduate study. So after the Bhagavatam, you have to read Chaitanya Charitamrita, and that is the complete course in Krishna consciousness. It'll lead you all the way up to the topmost stage that you can't even imagine, you can't even fathom, because we have to follow in the footsteps of the devotees, because all this knowledge is a science that can be revealed only by the most intimate devotees of the Lord. So we can't approach the Lord directly. We can't understand the Lord directly. We have to learn from his devotees. And so, especially following in the footsteps of the gopis, who are the topmost devotees of Krishna. And we're dāsa. Lord Chaitanya identified himself as Gopi Bhartu Padakamale, or dāsa anudas. I'm the servant of the servant of the servant of the gopis, who are the servants of Krishna. And the gopis were the topmost, most selfless, loving servants of Krishna. They didn't care at all about their own pleasure or their, it looks like lust, but it actually isn't. It's actually pure love. They didn't care one bit. They only cared for their happiness of Krishna. They didn't care about their own pleasure or happiness. It wasn't selfish at all. In fact, when Krishna was walking around in the forest, when he was out in the with the cowherd boys and walking around with the calves, they were worried that he would step on some sharp sticks or thorns, and they were just like heartbroken. They couldn't stand that Krishna would be injured. His soft lotus feet would be injured like that. So they're only thinking about Krishna. So that is the standard of pure devotion, pure devotees, the gopis of Vrindavan, cowherd girls of Vrindavan. There's nobody higher than that. And that's what we strive for. And there's a whole science of how to get to that stage. And it's all in Prabhupada's books. But you have to go step by step, because we're in just like, KC 101 right now, Even myself, it's way above my pay grade. But you have any questions? We got a couple of minutes, 2 or 3 minutes remaining here.
So when they say the super soul, I'm guessing they mean like the Lord Krishna and this. What do they mean by this? They keep saying about the difference between a soul and a super soul.
Yeah, super soul is, see, there's two things in the heart. There's Paramatma and the Atma. The Atma is who we are. We're an infinitesimal spiritual spark. We're 1/10,000th the size of the tip of a hair, and it's located in the heart area. That's who you are. That's who I am. And that is, it's a non-material particle. And in the Bhagavad Gita, it says it can't be cut by any weapon. It can't be burned by fire. It can't be withered by the wind. It's eternal. And it's indestructible, and it survives even when the body is killed. That soul goes on to a next body according to its karma and its thoughts at the time of death and higher authorities and its desires in this life. It goes to another body. If you like to eat a lot, maybe you'll be a pig in your next life. If you like to eat meat, maybe you'll be a tiger. If you like to sleep, maybe you'll be a bear. But there are different, you can all go down or up. You can also go to the higher planets. But, that the super soul, however, is also located in the heart. It's about thumb high, and it's located in the heart area as well. And that's the plenary expansion, a localized expansion of the Supreme. He's within and between every atom, but he's also within everyone's heart. The individual soul is only aware of what's going on in the individual's heart. But the super soul is aware of what's going on in every single heart in the entire universe. So they compare it to like two birds in a tree. They're sitting in the tree of the body, but they're not K-A-S-S-I-N-G. They're just two friendly birds. And one bird is eating the fruit of the tree. The Atma is enjoying the material world, but he's not really paying attention to his friend, the smarter, stronger bird who knows everything. And the goal of yoga is to connect with that smarter, stronger bird and surrender to him and serve him. And then we can understand who we are. That's called being enlightened. So we're almost out of time here.
Yeah. Well, so the Atma and Paramatma.
Yeah. It's like two birds in a tree. And that's the analogy that they give. So but the super soul will guide us in our activities because he's always there guiding the living entity. He's a plenary expansion or localized aspect of Krishna. We're out of time here.